Welcome, my name is a Xiaomi Redmi 9 and today I'll go over unboxing along with a brief overview of the device. So right off the bat I will mention that the device is already set up, so we don't have to do that, and let's pop it open and get a look what's inside. Oh, come on, there we go. So there's nothing on the top of the box, so I'm not really showing it. And here we get a casing for phone, which is really nice that they included one. So I'm gonna set it to the side for now and come back to it later. Then paperwork, we don't really care, so straight to the side. And the phone itself, so let's pop it out and set it to the side for now. And then we also have, well, paper, we don't really care about that. And then we get the disappointment of this phone, which is the 10-watt charger. Now the phone is apparently certified to be 18-watt fast charging, but the charger that they give you is a 10-watt, which is just pitiful, honestly. And for some reason it kind of smells like a fish. Not very fun smell here. And then we got the Type A to Type C cable, obviously, so you can charge it. And that's about it. Is there anything in here? Nope, nothing in here. And this isn't even removable. So I assume... Oh, there we go. There's the SIM ejector. I was looking for that. Okay, so everything is here, obviously, apart from headphones, which aren't really included. So let's set that to the side and unpack the phone itself. So let's take that off. There we go. So there's the phone itself, and let me unlock it. There we go. So as you can see, it is set up like I said. And right off the bat, we are greeted with the 6.5-inch display with a resolution of 1080 by 2340. So just a 1080p resolution right here. Kind of like majority of the devices released in 2020, mid-range and flagships included. And it has a 83.2% screen-to-body ratio with a 395 pixel per inch, which is kind of common considering it's 1080p display. On the front we have the Gorilla Glass 3 on an LCD IPS display. So sadly there is no AMOLED display, just an typical IPS. And yeah, now moving on, as you can see, the brightness of the device isn't necessarily anything to brag about here. It's quite dim, honestly. Would expect a lot more from it, especially in this year. It feels like if you take this phone outside, it might be a little bit dim to look at. Just as a comparison, this is how AMOLED display brightness looks like, and this is on max brightness. So with this side to side, it kind of looks like it's half brightness, honestly. Okay, so moving on to the internals of the device. It does have a Helios G80, and that's apparently, as you can see right here, it's a octa-core processor that goes up to 2 GHz if you care. It also has a couple different variants that you can purchase. So we have the 32, 64 and 128, and each one of them goes up in RAM. So we go 32 gigs has a 3 GB, then 64 has 4, and 128 has 6 GB RAM. So you don't really have choices there in terms of for instance, smaller storage and more RAM. So if you want more RAM, you will have to go for higher storage as well. And I'm kind of focusing on RAM because it's the only thing that you can't upgrade. The phone itself has a expandable storage, as you can see once I pop out the tray. There we go. So as you can see, you can expand it via SD card, and that's why I kind of focus on RAM itself, because that you won't be able to expand. And honestly, if you would be purchasing this device, I would strongly suggest to stay away from the 3 GB version. And 2020, that is just not enough in my opinion. 4 GB might be okay, but honestly I would go for 6 gigs if you have the budget. So anyway, from 4 to 6, 6 probably being the best option right here. And the storage, I wouldn't really bother. If you run out of it, you can just pop in a, for instance, 0.5 terabyte SD card and call it a day, and probably never have to worry about memory ever again. So apart from that, the device has a built-in 5020 milliamp hours battery, which is a fairly chunky unit there, with that crappy charger of 10 watts, but like I said before, it is certified to be apparently 18 watts, at least that's what I could find at GSM Arena and also Gizmodo. So that's where I pulled the info about this. And moving on to the cameras. At the front, as you can see, this is a 8 megapixel wide sensor that can shoot at a 1080 by 1080p at 30 frames. And at the front, that's basically all we get, this single sensor. And at the back, we have a quadruple sensor, and also a fingerprint sensor, if I'm correct. At least that's kind of how it looks like. Just a weird position for it, honestly. But yeah, going to the sensors, the main one is a 13 megapixel wide, then we have an 8 megapixel ultra wide, 3 megapixel macro, and 2 megapixel depth. Now, right off the bat, one of those sensors is completely useless and utter garbage, which is the 2 megapixel depth sensor, only there to rack up the count of the cameras, and that's about all it's doing. It's basically giving no benefit to the camera setup, honestly. And I guess they went with a 5 megapixel macro. We'll see how that actually stacks up. I assume it's going to be doing better photos than the 13 megapixel camera, because in most of the cases manufacturer includes something like a 48 or 62 megapixel sensor, and they also give you a 2 megapixel macro, and at that case, and like most of the circumstances with those sensors, the 48 megapixel and up does a better close-up quality of a photo than the 2 megapixel macro, but here we get a 5, so, and the main one is a 13 megapixel, so hopefully the macro will actually be doing some okay job, I assume. We're gonna see. And honestly, that's about all we have to say, I have to say for the cameras and overall the device. So we can get a quick glance at the device itself, so just get this out of the way. So as you can see at the bottom, we have a speaker, microphone, charging Type-C, and a headphone jack, which is kind of nice that they still include those. Then at the top we have something that Xiaomi is kind of known for, or at least I realize that they are the only one that are doing it, which is this IR sensor, and this will allow you to control different appliances at home or even office, things like ACs, TV, and plethora of other devices. They have an entire app in here. I can quickly open it up if I can actually find it quickly. Not now. Actually, my bad. I do know that there is one other company that includes the IR sensor, which is Huawei. As you can see, I do have that tiny little thing as well here. And as you can see, there's this application right here. Just agree to it. And yeah, you can have access for no reason to my location. So as you can see, you could add a remote, and you have a vast array of different appliances you can add. So you have Mi TV, Mi boxes, TVs, AC, fans, smart boxes, AV receivers, DVD players, projectors, SOT boxes, and cameras. So you can basically add everything that you have at home almost, and control it, assuming it has a remote control, and you can find it in here. So yeah, once you add it, it will be basically visible here, and you can use it instead of the normal remote control that came with it. So kind of interesting add-on to, well, not very many phones or different brands, honestly. So yeah, moving out of the app right here, let's at the back we have this weird plastic. Now the device comes with a Gorilla Glass 3 at the front, so right here, but the rest of the device is fully plastic, and well, doesn't really feel too premium, honestly, but the device isn't necessarily made to be premium. So as you can also see, it has this weird kind of pattern look to it, and I guess it's kind of hate it or love it. along with this circular non-pattern texture right around the camera. You can clearly see it. It's kind of weird looking, honestly, and I don't know if I like it or not. So yeah, now that I get this thing completely fingered up, let's wipe it off so it actually looks a little bit better, and drop that to the side and open up camera. So I'm gonna bring up my phone because it has quite nice cracks, which should be good enough for macro sensor to try to use macro mode to make a small object look large on photos. Basically close-ups. Cool. Okay, let's just get that right in here. Now let's see, because I'm not exactly sure. I want to turn on macro, not pro. Portrait photo. Where's the macro here? There we go, macro. Okay, so let's get a look at how this will come out. Okay, if this comes out like so, so it looks like I can't get too close, otherwise it gets blurry. So let's try that again, maybe a little bit further, assuming it's still macro, and it is. I think that's as close as I can get. Okay, so let's see that macro. So the macro is not that great, I would say. As you can see, this is basically how good I can capture it, however close I can get. Anything closer and it will come out blurry. Now let's just, for the fun of it, I'm gonna whip out my phone, set that to the side. Actually, not. Let me do it like this. I'm gonna place it on a. There we go. Let's turn on macro just to be certain that it's on. There we go. As you can see, now it's in macro. Also, let's get the light in here and do a fairly decent comparison of how, whoops, this will probably stack up. There we go. So this is the macro that I got with my phone, which is a 2.5-year-old phone now. And as you can see, it's not even comparable. So this is, I literally have the fibers of this microfiber cloth captured right here, which if you want to compare that, just for instance the fiber, it probably should have been a better shot. We can do it right now. Let's get both of the devices. So okay, there we go. So there is one. I'm gonna get the other phone. Immediately go into macro. Let's just make sure that it's still on, and it is. Now let's try to do the same. I think this is sharp, but I'm not sure. Let me quickly check if this is sharp, and I think it is gonna be as best as I can get it. Okay, so here comes the comparison of actual good macro to the one that basically adds a sensor for no reason. So, and this is the actual decent macro, as you can obviously see it, and this is the garbage macro. So yeah, just a easy comparison right here. So even though this is a 5 megapixel, I wouldn't really use it for macro. It doesn't do any good job here. When it comes down to photos, normal ones, it's a 30 megapixel sensor. And let's see if I disabled it now. So obviously the photos will be okay, hopefully. I don't really have much to capture here. I lost my plenty, so that's a little bit of a shame. So I'm just gonna capture this rug, basically the microfiber one. And as you can see, honestly, I mean, it is more blurry, but it's not much of a difference between the macro and the 13 megapixel, which is kind of hilarious. Now I also won't be able to do actual like test of the camera, take it outside and see how it deals with lighting and overall, for instance, sun and shadows and stuff like that. So keep that in mind. This is just kind of like a quick couple of snaps, just so you can see the overall sharpness and quality of it, instead of actual like how it handles in outdoor usage. Now, as you can see, you also have the ultra wide right here, so this will allow you to capture more with the sensor. And we also have a 2x zoom, which actually, this might actually do a better macro than the macro lens itself. Let's see. So this is the 2x zoom. Okay, never mind, it doesn't really do that much better job. It allows you to get closer, but it's still blurry. But apart from that, we can go to the ultra wide. It's a mediocre photo, mediocre quality, I mean. And this is the normal one, the 13 megapixel normal photo. So honestly, the photos here are, well, underwhelming, I would say. Now we can also go into the selfie and see how that deals with the camera itself, or how the camera deals with me. So I'm gonna turn off the light just so the camera has a little bit of a harder time. So, ooh, that is a lot of smoothing. I mean, I look like a teenager right here. Yeah, that looks comical, honestly. Just to put that in perspective, I do have wrinkles on my forehead. I'm not that young here. But you can literally not see anything on here. This is like a baby skin right here. So the device uses some absurd amount of smoothing right here too. Oh, that actually made me smile right here. It's almost hilarious how much it did it. But yeah, so as you can see, the cameras are a little bit of a joke in here. Specifically the 2 megapixel depth. The 5 megapixel is better than the 13 at taking close-ups, but by a small margin. And when it comes down to actually being a normal macro lens, it does a terrible job at it. The ultra wide is fine, and the 13 megapixel is fine. Fine meaning they're not terrible, but they're also not great. So yeah. And outside from that, let me quickly check the price tag, because I haven't actually checked how much this phone costs. So let's see. So we will look for Redmi 9 and give you a quick price tag of this device, which is roughly a little bit over $100. So honestly, I've been kind of looking at this device from a wrong perspective in this case. At $100, this device is one of the most compelling devices I have encountered for a while. I did have, about a year or half a year ago, a Huawei budget device, also for like $100 and also about $80. And those did not compare to this actually. For $100, this device is actually amazing. So it won't do much, but for $100, there's nothing better you can get actually. So at the end of the day, probably would have been better to not have that 2 megapixel depth sensor and just include a better charger for it instead. And the rest of the phone specifications, actually, to get a 1080p display at $100, that is actually really good. Yeah, but basically the biggest flaw of this device are the cameras, but for $120 I can't complain. This is a way better device than I actually expected for the price that it comes in. Obviously the processor is budget with the Helios G80, and the price will vary also depending on which version you go. This is the 120 is the base one, which is a 32 and 3 GB RAM, which, like I said at the beginning, I would strongly advise you to go at least for the 4 GB RAM or 6 if you can afford it, which will probably bring up the price tag to something like 150 or above. So probably something like 150, 160, I assume. So if you can, if you're looking for a budget device, 120, this is the bare minimum for the specs, but like I said, the 3 GB RAM in my opinion might be too little, so I'd advise you to go for the higher one. But in any other circumstance, if you can't afford it or something like that along those lines, this device is still way better than at the price range that anything else that you can get at on the market, I believe. So yeah, at the end of the day, this is it looks kind of budget, feels kind of budget. I mean, it is made of plastic and glass, but it runs fine and does everything that you'd expect, honestly. So at the end of the day, I would recommend the device if you're looking, like I said, for a budget device. So if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.